Hey, what's up, everybody? It's James here. Do you struggle with organization? Do you struggle with meeting deadlines? Do you find you miss appointments easily? And do you have trouble keeping your house clean? This can be common for people with autism as well as ADHD. If you have autism or ADHD, or don't have autism and ADHD, but struggle with organization and these things I mentioned, you probably struggle with executive functioning. In this video, I want to talk about ways in how to triple your executive functioning abilities right now. All right, well, let's get started. All right, first off, I want to give a little bit of brief background into why people with ADHD and autism often struggle with executive functioning. Well, people with ADHD have a dopamine deficit, which means it's harder to do things that is considered boring. If something doesn't excite us or isn't urgent, we struggle with motivation to do these tasks. Furthermore, people with ADHD often have a shrunken prefrontal cortex, which is often responsible for executive functioning and decision making. For example, if a person with ADHD was offered $5 right now, or given the choice to wait a day and receive $15, a person with ADHD would most likely pick the first choice, getting $5 now, because of the immediate gratification. Autistic people often struggle with executive functioning as well. However, us autistics may struggle with executive functioning in the fact that we often like to hyperfixate and hyperfocus on things. We have a hyperfocused nature of thinking, which means it's harder for us to see the bigger picture sometimes. We often struggle to see the forest for the trees, but we have the gift of seeing each tree in vast detail. However, it's sometimes hard to see the forest as a whole. And this makes it harder for us to be organized and thus have good executive functioning abilities. Then there's many of us autistics who also have ADHD as well, and us ADHDers who say we also have autism, basically have both. Statistically, 50 to 70% of people with autism also have ADHD. So this may not be a tip per se, but being aware of this can help know what you're dealing with. All right, I'm going to talk about some tips that will help both autistic and ADHD people in terms of lifestyle habits and routines. The first thing to do is write down lists to help organize your thoughts. You can do this with paper. However, the problem with paper, even though it can be helpful, is that you can lose papers. Note cards could be a better method in that it can fit in your pocket better, which will decrease your ability to lose them. However, it's harder to obtain note cards like you can with a piece of paper where you can find anywhere. Another method I found to be most helpful when writing down lists is using a smartphone. Your smartphone has free built-in apps where you can write down lists that can allow you to check them off all in one file. For example, I use the Samsung's Notes app, which can convert text into check-off lists where you can check off. I would suggest creating a shortcut of the Notes app right in front of the phone, so right when you open it up you can get to the app instead of scrolling through different pages of apps in order to get to it, which can reduce barriers. There's also more fancier apps, which I haven't used, but a lot of other people say are useful. There's free and paid versions where you can download off of Google Play. They can range from simple list apps to advanced planners, and even walkthrough tutorials where you can help organize your day, weeks and months, and even a year. The key is everyone's different, and you got to find what's helpful for you. Not every app will work the same way and be helpful in the same way. It's not a one-size-fits-all method. Another tip that's helpful is organizing your house, room, and offices in ways where it will reduce barriers of entry to keep your office clean and organized. For example, I have a laundry basket next to my bed, so that way I don't have to walk across the room in order to put my clothes in the laundry basket. This can help me keep my room clean. Another example is I keep all my tools in areas where I'd most likely use the tools, or organize other things in areas where I'd most likely use them. So that way it will reduce the trip of bringing them back to their spots, which will also reduce a barrier into putting things away and keeping organized. When it comes to using things and putting things away, some people say it's easier to get in the habit of putting things away to where you found them, while other people find it's easier, if they're busy, to put things away near where the spot is at, like the room where the spot is at, instead of in the actual spot. The reason why this could be helpful for some is that people don't want to lose their train of thought and get distracted. And putting things back to its actual spot, which takes more time, can actually cause people to lose their train of thought. Versus if they put the spot in the room, it can still help a person clean another room and be organized. Then later on, they can pick up the other room and it'll be easy to put things away because everything is in the room versus having to run around to find things. For people with autism, it's helpful to come up with a routine into when to clean your house or clean a room in your house. Maybe set a certain day of the week. For people with ADHD, it helps to find motivation in order to do things like clean your house. Focus on all the benefits in order to make it seem more urgent, because people with ADHD thrive on doing things when there's a sense of urgency. And for both people with autism and ADHD, it helps making boring tasks into more exciting tasks. For example, when you wash your dishes or fold your clothes, it helps if you listen to YouTube videos or play music in the background to entertain you. Another lifestyle tip that will help you improve your executive functioning threefolds is to set reminders on your phone or in your house. For example, if you have to do something in an hour, in order to not forget, I set a timer on my phone, a countdown timer using the free countdown timer app. It's easy to set the timer. I don't even have to write down what it is I need to do, which can take more time, which can create a barrier, but instead just simply set the timer, and then when it counts down, it will remind me I need to do something. Then I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to do that. And setting the timer will only take a couple of seconds. However, when it comes to things that need to be more specific, that you need more reminder in terms of what it is you need to do, it helps to use the calendar app on your smartphone. There, you could pick a day on your calendar, write what it is you need to do, and then you can set a reminder that will remind you later on when the day comes. I often set the reminder a day in advance, and then a reminder again during the day. If you don't use smartphones, which I suggest you do because it can really help you, but if you don't, Post-it notes can help act as reminders too. You can post them all over around the house. However, it's important to make them different and make them stand out, because if you do that all the time, it can be easy to ignore as well. So change the reminders up. All right, well, the next tips, I'm going to focus more on mental health aspects. Improving your mental health can really improve your executive function abilities, whether you realize it or not. So in regard to this category, the first tip is try to reduce stress as much as you can. As a human being, there will be times that you will feel stressed, but try to make it a goal to reduce it as much as you can. Why? Stress can significantly impair your executive functioning abilities. When you're stressed, stress activates your amygdala and deactivates your prefrontal cortex. Your amygdala is responsible for fight or flight. So if you feel stress, feel anxiety, fear, your amygdala gets activated and you'll become in fight or flight mode, as opposed to parasympathetic mode when you're relaxed. And fight or flight mode is used obviously as a way of survival when you're in danger. When you're not stressed, when you're not in fight or flight mode, you'll be in what's called parasympathetic mode, which means you'll be more relaxed. And when that happens, your prefrontal cortex gets activated again. And when you're in this mode, your prefrontal cortex, again, is responsible for your executive functioning. And this will make it easier to make decisions and be organized and think through things more logically. So stress can be a huge factor towards your executive functioning abilities. Learning different techniques to reduce your stress can go a long way. So if you want to learn how to reduce stress, I would suggest watching the video, How to Gain Greater Happiness and Joy. So stay tuned at the end if you want to watch these videos. Another method that can help improve your executive functioning is to increase your baseline dopamine level. This can be done by enjoying the now moment and focusing on small accomplishments within a task, instead of seeking a reward at the end that can cause you to not enjoy the actual task at hand. Another proven method, which might sound crazy, but if you take cold showers, taking a cold shower can actually increase your dopamine. It's something about the sensation of the cold on your body can actually increase your dopamine as well as endorphins. You don't have to take a long shower, but just like a 2 to 3 minute shower can actually help. And it doesn't have to be freezing cold, but fairly cold enough to kind of make your body go, ooh. But that would be a good thing because it increases your endorphins and dopamine. Now I want to focus on some tips in terms of physical health that can improve your executive functioning by threefold. The first tip is exercise. Many people say exercise is important, but here's some tips that I'm going to do in terms of exercise that can really zero in on improving your executive functioning right now. When you're about to do a task that involves heavily organization, decision making, that involves your executive functioning part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, exercising before you do that can really help. I would suggest taking a run around the block, like take your dog for a run, and this can boost your endorphins and your dopamine. Your blood will flow through your brain more too, which can improve focus and decision making. A quicker version that's also helpful is doing jumping jacks before you do something. The second tip is regular exercise could really help too. If you exercise regularly, this can improve your mental health drastically. Another tip in terms of physical health is eating more healthy food. Now, I'm not saying you should go on a crazy diet like Atkins diets, and I'm not saying you should completely give up foods that you enjoy like comfort foods, but developing a habit to cut down less on foods that aren't healthy for you can go a long way. I would suggest eating less sugar as part of your diet. Also, if you focus on foods that break down sugar slowly, such as nuts, grains, meats, vegetables, and oils like olive oil can really help. And then discourage any kind of foods with a lot of sugar or carbohydrates, which can be converted into sugar. This can include bread, pastas, sweets, and candies. I love my pasta and I love my spaghetti. I decided I will be able to enjoy my spaghetti as long as I eat less candy. So I did that and I feel much better. So what I'm trying to say here, you don't have to go crazy trying to cut everything out. You just have to make little sacrifices that will still be enjoyable when you eat. Also, when you eat less sweets and other kinds of sugars or chips, you'll start enjoying more healthy food more too, which can make eating still enjoyable. And the long-term benefit will be awesome because you'll have more energy and more mental clarity, and that's worth it. Another tip I found helpful is to drink less coffee. I'm not saying to eliminate coffee, like suddenly go cold turkey drinking no coffee, but drink coffee less regularly, and then save times for drinking coffee during times where you really need to use your brain, where you really need to organize, where it really involves executive functioning. The extra caffeine boost can really boost your decision making and mental clarity during those times. And the last tip, and I can't emphasize the importance of this, is regular sleep. I know firsthand that if I don't get enough sleep, it can really drastically impact my executive functioning abilities. So it really helps to try to sleep at a regular time and try not to drink coffee too late, because coffee can not only make it harder for you to fall asleep, but it can affect your deep cycle of sleep, which can help you feel more rested. I would also avoid taking sleeping pills unless you really need to during times where you just can't fall asleep. Because if you take them every night during nights you don't really need to, you'll develop a tolerance, and then when you stop taking them, you won't be able to fall asleep. If you want to learn more tips on how to fall asleep better, I would suggest watching the video How to Fall Asleep Better in the link below. Another tip is to avoid being burned out. We live in a world where society often demands us to do a lot of things. However, it doesn't mean that we need to do more than what we can handle. It's really important to do what we can handle, because if you do too much more, you can risk having a burnout. For us autistic people, due to our sensitivity to stimulus, our struggle with socializing, fitted in, multitasking, and of course executive functioning, this can of course take a toll on us and can take a lot of energy. So it's really important to not do more tasks that you can handle, or else you can risk having an autism burnout, which can really impair your executive functioning abilities. And it's just as important to take breaks and rest for us ADHDers and not do too much more than we can handle, because we can also experience burnout as well. This really goes for anybody, neurodiverse or not. Because if you do too much, your mind will get exhausted, and then you'll go through a burnout period where you will not want to do anything. You won't have energy to do anything. And this can again really impact your executive functioning abilities too. Well, I hope these tips are helpful. If you have any other tips that you feel can really help you with your executive functioning, please share in the comments below. If you want to learn some ways to manage stress and reduce anxiety as a way to cope with executive functioning, please click on the video on the left. If you want to learn some effective ways to help you fall asleep better and get good rest, please click on the video on the right. Well, thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for some future videos.